nervous because I'm here now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell along with my co-host Glenn Martin and a frequent and friend to the show, Jeff Risdon. Jeff, thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure to be with you guys. You guys do a wonderful job. It's great to be back with you.
Thank you. And if you guys didn't know, of course, Jeff is a managing editor of the Browns Wire and Lions Wire, and we'll put his links below. He does radio as well, and we'll give him an opportunity to talk about that here in a little bit. But we want to get right into this awesome matchup, which is what we're going to be previewing, the Monday night game, Ravens, Browns. Glenn, I'm going to let you kick it off here with the first question.
All right. Well, Jeff, thanks again for coming on. A pretty easy question. Is Kevin Stefanski already the most successful coach the Browns have had since returning to Cleveland?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, so they had a nice little run with Butch Davis 18 years ago, which was the last time they made the playoffs. But we always kind of knew that was a house of cards based on the way that Butch operated. This is, I tell you what, man, it's really legitimate what he's doing, how he's figured out the pulse of his team. And I'll go back to the week 1 loss to Baltimore and how the team responded to that, how he handled it was very, very different, a much different sheriff in town than we saw with Freddie Kitchens or Mike Pettin or Hugh Jackson or any number of other scrubs that have been graced the presence of Cleveland over the years. It's remarkable to see a competent coach in Cleveland. It really is.
My goodness. Yeah, you're not kidding. When Glenn showed me that question, I had to like chuckle for a second, but I was like, well, yeah, that's, it's absolutely.
Normally it would be insulting for most guests, but in Cleveland, it's perfectly appropriate.
Right. Absolutely. And hey, you're heading in the right direction. So we want to talk about injuries here to kind of get a little bit of context on the game. Of course, we read that, the tight end Austin Hooper, missed practice, is uncertain for Monday night. What's the current health status of the Browns? Anyone 50-50 that you know of to play?
So the big deal, Denzel Ward is trying to get back. He is desperately missed in the line or the Browns secondary. The line without him is not good. It's ugly. It winds up making Terrence Mitchell as the number 1 cornerback. Terrence Mitchell is playing above his head as the number 2 cornerback when he's asked to be number 1. That's a real problem. He is trying to get back. He has a calf strain. It went from week to week to day to day. He still has not practiced as of Friday. They do have one more practice on Saturday. We'll see how that goes. If he doesn't practice on Saturday, don't expect him on Monday night. That would be a loss. Wyatt Teller is the other one you have to watch out for, the starting right guard. He is PFF's poster boy. He is the number 1 rated right guard in the league. And while I think PFF fluffs him up just a little bit, he's been really, really good. Specifically in the run game, he is the kind of guy that your high school coach wants you to be Wyatt Teller if you're a high school offensive lineman. That's the best way to describe the way he is. He is on the COVID list. If he tests negative one more time, he was only exposed. He was not. He was a direct contact to somebody who tested positive. He has not tested positive on his own. If he tests negative again before the game, he will be able to go. That would be a big bounce for the Browns because they can certainly use him.
And didn't he luckily escape any injury from a spiking this past weekend?
Yeah. So Tahir Tart of the Titans stepped on him, did the Ndamukong Suh stomp after Teller had kicked his butt and knocked him out of a play. He stomped on his leg on the way. He's suspended for a week for that. So that was kind of nice to see. Didn't get flagged, of course, because the Browns never win the battles with the officials. That's another story. But it was nice to see some retribution for that because it was pretty blatant. If you've seen the video for it, you know that it merited a suspension.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, one game honestly felt a little light to me because that's a big boy coming down with those spikes on your leg there. So that was crazy. But all right, so I got to ask about Odell Beckham because he goes out. We saw the offense with him. Now we see the offense without him. Help me understand this, Jeff. Higgins is not a better player than Odell Beckham, but yet when Odell's out and Higgins is in, they're way better offensively. Why is that?
This is the question that everybody wants to know in Cleveland too. And people tend, and I'm not doing the same now. I will dance around it a little bit. Odell is really, really good, but he is not the best fit for an offense that wants to spray the ball around. The Kevin Stefanski style of offense is at its best when Baker Mayfield is back there and he throws to the best option on the field, no matter who it is. He's been really good at that. And that's the way, if you watch Minnesota's offense, they're the same way. If you watch the Gary Kubiak offense in Houston, which is what it's based on, it was the same way. And in Denver too, when there's a number one alpha dog who's a little bit needy, it does throw things out of whack. Odell was not like that on the field. And all indications are that he was not being a diva at all. But there was still, you think, oh my God, that's Odell Beckham out there. I got to get him the ball. You can't help but fault. You can't fault Baker for thinking that. You can't fault the offense for being like, hey, that guy's awesome. And if you watch the Browns Dallas game, I mean, he was unstoppable. He won that game for them. He was unbelievable. So he's still capable of that, but they don't necessarily need him to be that alpha dog the way that the Giants did back in the day. They're getting good play from other receivers. They have good tight ends, although they've kind of sloughed off in recent weeks. But Baker seems to be more at ease in terms of finding the best option on every route when Odell isn't one of those options. And I wonder how much of that is a circumstance. They haven't hardly ever practiced together. Odell did not practice at all in 2019. He was hurt, so he didn't get practice time in that. They don't have that chemistry like that. One thing that Rashard Higgins has with Baker, they have incredible chemistry.
Yeah.
Baker always knows where Higgins is going to be, that he trusts him to throw the ball. He trusts him to run the right route. There was some issues with Odell's route running. He likes to improvise a little bit if he thinks he sees something. Baker doesn't handle that all that well. In fact, Baker Mayfield's last interception was the play where Odell Beckham was hurt. It was an interception on the first throw of the game against Cincinnati. That was week 7. And it was a deal where Baker made the proper read based on the offense. He threw it shorter. Odell was supposed to cut his route off and turn around based on the coverage and the rush. He didn't. He kept going and it wound up getting picked off. So Odell is not without blame in that. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. Let's put it that way, guys, because I don't think anybody has decided what's going to happen with Odell yet. If he's going to be back in Cleveland, there are people already writing that he needs to go. I'm not there yet, but they'd be fools not to see what they could get for him.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. I also wonder what type of difference it makes since Baker's a younger quarterback. If you stick Odell in an offense with a more established guy like him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With an Aaron Rodgers, my goodness, because Aaron is the ultimate alpha. I mean, that's his offense, and you can deal with it or you can get lost. That's just kind of the way it works with him and other guys. So, that's definitely another interesting piece of that puzzle. But there's another guy we want to talk about. Not your offensive number 1 overall pick, but of course your defensive, and that's Myles Garrett. He scares the living daylights out of me. So one of the things we wanted to know, of course, if anybody that knows what's going on the Ravens offensive line, we just had a segment where we had our viewers guess the starting 5 of our offensive line because it's changed every single week. And of course, with Ronnie Stanley going down, Orlando Brown has moved to left tackle, and they've kind of at right tackle gone back and forth between Fluker and Tyree Phillips, depending on the mood or the weather. We're not sure what it is yet. But our question to you is, do they move him around typically? Garrett, do they move Myles Garrett around typically? Do you see them exploiting the fact that, I think Orlando Brown is doing a really good job on the left side. Do you see them exploiting that right side, as far as having a Fluker or a rookie out there?
Yeah, Myles does move around quite a bit. He plays about 63 to 65% on the against the left tackle. He has had games though where the other team's weakness is definitely at right tackle, and he has done that. Houston is a good example of that. He played almost exclusively left side in that game. So they will move him around to exploit that. I'll say this: I think Orlando Brown has been very good at left tackle for y'all. He's impressed me. He's outplayed my expectations for him, and that's good for him. Good for you. Garrett though he's playing on another level this year. He really is. He deserves to be the defensive player of the year. I know he missed 2 games. I know TJ Watt took his sack thing away from him, but nobody has created more turnovers. Nobody is getting more pressure more consistently against multiple blockers than Garrett. He is devouring tight end chips. He knows how to beat them. He is freed. He's unshackled, and he has a mission to prove that he's not the guy that everybody remembers him for, that he wants to be remembered for being a dominant player. And this year he has been phenomenal. He has been the best defensive player in the league And yes, they are going to move him around. They will actually kick him inside at times too, and invert him with Sheldon Richardson, who is streaky. He played phenomenal last week. He stuffed Derrick Henry stone cold on a 4th and short, and then on the very next snap, he stripped the ball from him on the Titans' next possession. That's why the Browns won the game. So they're not just Myles Garrett up front. If you watch the Eagles against the Browns, you saw Olivier Vernon get the AFC Defensive Player of the Week because he got 3 sacks, a strip sack, and a safety on Carson Wentz. Now Carson Wentz is a Carson Wentz is fun.
He's on the bench
My
now.
goodness, that's. Can you believe that happened to him? Just off topic.
No,
it's crazy what's going on.
His contract, his extension hasn't even kicked in yet. Think about that. Like it hasn't even kicked in yet.
Wow. Yeah, it's rough to be a Philly fan these days.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so
I had a follow up about Garrett though.
Yeah.
So what do you say to, and not necessarily just Garrett, you're talking about him being the defensive player of the year. A guy that we've been rooting for here in Baltimore is Marlon Humphrey, based on what he's been doing in the secondary. So is it fair to say that maybe the top 3 candidates arguably are all in the AFC North between TJ Watt, Marlon Humphrey, and
what? I wouldn't fight that at all, honestly, because Humphrey's been lights out. And I talked to Matt Stevens today. We're doing the behind the lines wire things with the Ravens wire, and he instantly I brought up, what's working for Baltimore's defense. Marlon Humphrey, first thing he mentioned. So he and every time I've watched, he's been really. It's really cool that the AFC North has all these defenses, yet it seems like the teams are kind of winning with offense too. It's it's a good audition piece this week because Jarvis Landry is going to be out there. Marlon Humphrey, I assume, will probably be marking him. If he's not, he's going to be on Rashard Higgins, who gets a lot of 3rd down targets and not a lot in red zone targets, but not a lot else. So that's going to be a fun matchup to watch.
Oh,
the little jockeying there. They both deserve all pro. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Well, another guy who I consider an absolute beast on the Browns, on the other side of the ball, Nick Chubb, who I'm lucky enough to have drafted him in on my fantasy football team. And so it's kind of a strange week this week because I don't want him to do too good, but he's got to do just good enough to help me out there. But there's no doubt in my mind that they have the best running back tandem in the league. But I read a stat to Jimmy that just blew my mind when we were looking into this game. The fact that Nick Chubb has missed 4 games and has 30 less carries than Kareem Hunt, but still has 60 more yards than him and almost double the rushing touchdowns. And that includes, of course, when he went out of bounds intentionally a few weeks ago.
That's right.
Drove me crazy in the moment because I could have used those points and I lost that week. But I mean, how do they? My question is, are these two interchangeable, or do they have a specific type of role that they like to use each for? And I mean, can anyone slow down these guys? Do the Ravens have any chance of slowing these two down?
Yeah, there's potential. Kareem has not played all that well the last couple of weeks. I think the one game he had 13 yards on 11 carries. But they do things differently. Kareem is much more of a perimeter oriented runner. He will catch screens. He will catch circle routes out of the backfield. That's where he's at his best. He's at his best isolating guys in space and making them look stupid. And he's very good at that. Nick Chubb is a guy who's going to take a handoff. He's going to follow, let's use Joel Bitonio as the left guard, who's great, by the way. Mm-hmm. And he's going to follow that block, and Joel's going to seal the hole, and he's going to blow through it, and nobody's going to touch him for 45 yards. And he has, I forget the exact number, but I believe he has 280 more fourth quarter rushing yards than anybody else in the league. He gets better as the game goes on. They love to lean on him. And it can be maddening at times because Kareem Hunt is not a great interior runner. He's a guy who's going to try to like make that little sharp cut, and he will get blasted back. So you're going to have some 2nd and 8, some 3rd and 9s because he's getting the ball a couple of times. But then you get Nick Chubb in the game, and it's 2nd and 11, and he breaks off 48. It happens a lot. He leads the league in runs over 20 yards. I believe he has 13 more than Derrick Henry does. So
and he missed 4 games. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and he missed 4 games. That's right. He is a phenomenal closer. Kareem is a little less consistent with what he does. He did light up Houston. He's very good in the receiving game, and I think that against Baltimore, a team that has some speed at linebacker, I think you're going to see Kareem kind of stretching the field more horizontally, and then you slam vertically with Chubb. And that's it's been tough for anybody to stop that. I won't disrespect the Ravens defense, but they got their work cut out for them there.
I know. I'm glad that at least we have what we affectionately call the Monstars up front for this week, and it's not Derek Wolfe going at it alone. Of course, with Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams coming back.
Calais Campbell's going to be a big key to this game, and how well he handles Jack Conklin and Wyatt Teller, assuming Teller plays. They're both really, really good against the run, in opening holes, sealing creases, and things like that, and moving people out. Calais Campbell, I didn't watch a lot of last week, but it was nice to see him back and doing what he does best. And he's been one of the best at doing what he does for a long time.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Glenn likes to mention this, the play that he got injured on in that Colts game. Any of those guards can go call up Quentin Nelson and ask him about Calais Campbell, because he threw that guy like he was a action figure. It was just incredible to watch. He uses his leverage and his hips really well with his height. It's impressive. But one of the other things I want to talk to you about is you mentioned that the DBs are a little banged up, of course, with Denzel Ward. Yeah. And statistically speaking, in the red zone in the air, not doing, that's to me one of the weak spots of your defense. So not that there's a ton of them. I mean, it's a very quality defense, but I think that's one of the areas the Ravens are going to look to exploit. So this is the question. Well, it's kind of a loaded question here, so bear with me. But do you think the Ravens have what it takes to take advantage of the Browns in the air? And then do you think it will be necessary, or do you think we'll be able to run the ball successfully enough so we won't have to lean too heavily on a air dependent offense, if you will?
You're going to have to hit some passes. You're going to have to make the linebackers back off. You're going to have to make Andrew Sendejo play in coverage. And instead of just missing tackles in the run game, he will also blow coverages. He's
a busy man.
He's not good at his job, unfortunately. Although to his credit, he played really well in a pseudo spy role against Deshaun Watson. And the Browns have handled mobile quarterbacks fairly well. They smothered Carson Wentz. Some of that's on Carson, as we mentioned earlier. They've done a pretty good job, though, of containing the designed quarterback run. That isn't really there against them. The improvised play where, both tackles rush upfield and they get walled off and Lamar takes off, that's going to be there. He does that very well against everybody, and the Browns will not be an exception on that. To beat this team, you have to be able to exploit the deep throw. And the Ravens receivers do not have the – Marquise Brown is a tough one for me because I like what he does, but he's very limited. He has the smallest catch radius of any human I've ever seen. And that's a problem when you're going against a Browns team that closes quickly. And they don't necessarily cover all that tight, but they're very good at getting hits instantly right away and taking away throwing angles. And I wonder how effective he's going to be. You're going to miss the tight ends this week because that's where you really get the bread and butter in the passing game against the Browns, making guys like Andrew Sendejo and Carl Joseph cover people one-on-one. That is the biggest Browns weakness. They don't do that well. Ronnie Harrison's out. They're going to miss him for that. He was a bright spot at that. They did pick up Tedrick Thompson. I'm hopeful that he will do something, but the safety coverage is unquestionably the weakness of the Browns defense. And that is there to exploit. Again, though, Lamar's going to have to be pinpoint. He's going to have to make those throws while he's on the run because Garrett is going to get pressure on him. I'm pretty confident that Joe Woods, the defensive coordinator, is going to design where the linebackers are going to be ready for Lamar to take off. Not necessarily a spy, but sort of a safety alert on that. And it will also cut off the little outlet passes that he likes to do to Ingram and to Gus and those type of things. To Ricard, who scares me in the open field. How's that guy? How is that guy that big and that good with his hands? My goodness,
we've been saying it though, right?
Yeah, I mean, 310 pounds with very little fat and can move like that. It's people sleep on his athleticism. There's no doubt about that.
He's a good player.
Every year they lower his weight. And I'm like, dude, there's no way he's under.
Smaller.
Yeah, it's like there's no way he's sub 3. Right. No way. Yeah. I mean,
so he can be a weapon. Your tight ends can be a weapon. It's going to hurt that you don't have Boyle. that's a loss, man.
Yeah.
But there are shots to be taken on the outside, but it's going to be Lamar. He's going to have to make those throws while he's on the run, sometimes on the dead run. And I think that's going to be the Browns' game plan, is to make Lamar make accurate throws on the run. And if he does it, then you tip your cap to him and say, hey, good job. But just knock my headphones out. If he can't, then it's going to be trouble, because they are a quality tackling team. Other than Andrew Sandejo, he is going to be a human missile, and you guys are going to make gifs of him flying by a tackle or two in the game. It happens every week, but he also can really lay the lumber. It's just a question of don't be on his train tracks.
Right.
Tony Jefferson was like that. You guys know Tony Jefferson. Very well. A guy. He plays on train tracks. If you're in the way of the train, you're in a lot of trouble. But if you can sidestep to the right or the left, he's going to fly right by you. Andrew Sandejo is a magnified version of that.
Well, I'm glad that Andrews is coming back. Historically, he's done well against the Browns, and I'm definitely
he's the type of receiver who will give them problems. I expect to see Malcolm Smith and BJ Goodson trying to mark him a little bit. But again, that transition area, that mesh point between the safeties and the defense and the linebackers has been an issue for the Browns defense all year.
Well, this next one might have been a kind of a crazy question just a week ago, but with the Steelers just recently losing to the Washington football team, and of course the Steelers still being ahead on the schedule for the Browns, and they got a tough game this week, having to take on the Buffalo Bills. So if you're the Browns, do you think they should still have their sights set on the division crown?
There's nothing wrong with aspiring to greatness, with the reality that it's probably not going to happen. They are 2 games back. They would have to beat the Steelers. That's going to be a tall order. Again, no disrespect intended to Baltimore at all, but Pittsburgh has been a bigger problem for the Browns than Baltimore has, historically, going back to the inception of the Ravens and the Browns coming back. There is a mental block there with the Browns against the Steelers that is not there against Baltimore. They know they can beat this team. They did it last year. They ran all over them in Baltimore last year. That was probably Baltimore's low point of the season last year before the playoff game. And they are designed to take advantage of the way that they won that game and the way that Tennessee ran against Baltimore in the playoffs. The Browns can do that. They feel pretty good about that. They like this matchup. Pittsburgh is a different story for whatever reason, whether it's real or not, it is different for them. So I think that taking care of business this week is the priority. And then if it's still there, if it's presenting itself, then hell yeah, go for it. But this team realistically is playing for the 5 seed. They have a 1-game lead on it right now. They have the tiebreaker against the Colts. They have the tiebreaker against the Raiders. They beat them both. They have the tiebreaker against the Titans. They beat them. They're feeling pretty good about that. I think they would be happy. Well, I won't say they'd be happy. They would be fine making the playoffs and being the 5 seed and going to the 4 seed, be it Buffalo or Miami or Tennessee or Indianapolis, and knowing that they can beat any of those teams, and probably feeling pretty confident about that.
Yeah, I tell you what, speaking of the playoff race, one of the things, you kind of tipped your hat a little bit. How do you see, it sounds like you see the division lining up as, the Steelers, Browns, and Ravens, but do you think that those 3 teams all make it into the playoffs ultimately?
Baltimore is going to have some work to do. I think they need to win this weekend. And that's it. I wouldn't call this a must win for Baltimore, but you're going to have to get to 10 wins, I think. And it's tough to get there if you're 7-6. There's a lot of trouble getting there. I think New England losing last night was nice. That takes one more team out of the way. You really need to root for either Las Vegas or Miami to go cold. Quite honestly. And I think Miami is going to lose this weekend. I think they are vulnerable with Tua. That's a weird situation. It's an interesting dynamic to me. They are playing so Tua doesn't have to win games for them. And I'm not sure that that's the best way to bring along a young quarterback, but I'm not Brian Flores. So I think it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that all teams get in. I do think that for Baltimore to get in, they probably need to win this weekend and also get a little bit of help, either have Miami lose another one or the Raiders to just go away, which again could happen. They almost lost to the Jets last week. It took a miracle for them to beat that. Then you're going against, you got your AFC South runner up, be it the Colts or the Titans. I think they're safely in. So then you're looking at Miami or Buffalo, and I think Baltimore's better than those teams, or at least should be better. I think the wackiness of the schedule that you guys have had has played some havoc into that I'm not necessarily sure that the Baltimore right now is better than those teams, but they have the ability to get back there. And if they do, I personally would love to see 3 teams from the North get in. That's kind of a status thing. It would make me, as somebody who covers the Browns, feel better about the Browns. Like, yeah, they got it in a year where the division was tough, man.
Right.
There's some status to that. So it wouldn't bother me at all if Baltimore made it.
I keep telling Glenn that I really want it to play out as far as like poetic justice goes. I want to, get in, play the Steelers in round 1. And be fully loaded.
Oh, now see, that would be a Cleveland's fan's dream to watch the Browns beat, let's say, Buffalo. I'm nothing against Buffalo, but let's say they beat them on Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday afternoon you watch the Steelers and the Ravens go at it, knowing that you're going to play the winner of that game.
Ugh.
That's Cleveland hasn't had that dream in a long time.
And speaking of Cleveland and a dream, how is the city and surrounding areas taking this team? Are they kind of like apprehensive to get too into it? What's the feeling?
They're getting better with it. I think beating Tennessee was actually a big thing. The fact that Baker Mayfield is playing much better of late. He hasn't thrown an interception since week 7. He has been really, really good at taking what the defense gives him. He's not making mistakes. I think there's more confidence in that. The fact that Myles Garrett's back from his COVID scare, the fact that you got the offensive line. If you go to PFF at all, you're going to see Brown's love for the offensive line there. It's a good team, and I think people are starting to embrace it. The fact that they're 9-3, they haven't been that good since Bill Belichick was the coach in 1994. There's reason to believe. There are still some people that are a little gun shy about it, and I get that. I understand it. I completely respect that. But this is a good football team. They are a little ahead of schedule. But at the same time, the marquee talent on the team, they're really, really good, and they're finally a well-coached team. And I think that's the biggest thing when I talk to like my dad is 74 years old. He's been a Browns fan forever, and he talks about Kevin Stefanski just reverentially, like the way that he's molded the team, the way that he has changed the mindset, and he's ready to get back into it. And he'd been out for a long time. When they hired Rob Trzcinski for the second, it was like, what are they doing? It was very easy for the old timers like my dad to get away from it.
Yeah. Right.
And he's excited about it again. There's genuine excitement about it. There are still some people who need more convincing, and I'm not going to fault anybody in Cleveland for being gun shy about that. But at the same time, why not now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're absolutely
enjoy
right.
it while you can.
Yeah. So I'm kind of interested to get your prediction for this one, because it sounds like you might be leaning a direction in which we've never seen you lean before, Jeff. I mean, you don't normally pick the Browns, but this is a different year. This is a crazy year. So what is your actual prediction? Who wins, and how does it happen?
I am going to pick the Browns to win. And I do think that I believe this is my 4th time with you guys, and this will be the first time that I've picked the Browns to win.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is based on Cleveland playing really, really well. I think they're prepared. I think the extra day of rest is going to do them some good. I think the way that the Ravens have gone through the schedule, it's their 3rd game in 12 days. I think that is a fatigue issue. You've got guys that are coming back, whether they tested positive or just were exposed. There's a lot of busyness going on there. And I think that does weigh on the Ravens. I think it's going to hurt them a little bit when it gets into the 3rd quarter and the Browns are on the 11th play of a drive going down the field. I think that does give the Browns an advantage. I think the Browns special teams are rounding into form. I saw Justin Tucker miss a kick the other night, and I was ready to go buy lottery tickets because that never happens. I don't expect it to happen again, but when things like that are going, from the outside, you're thinking, things just aren't right with Baltimore right now. And again, the Browns are playing really, really good football, legitimately good football. They're not getting fluke wins. I know people are going to point to, you all probably have done it already, pointing to the way that the Titans came back in that game. The Browns were holding on for dear life, and this is a team that's learning how to win when they have a 38-6 lead. It was scary, but they figured it out. They made plays when they needed to, and I'm going to take the Browns. I think the Browns win. I'll say this: I think they win by a touchdown.
Wow.
I hope you're
I
wrong,
know.
Jeff. I hope you're wrong, Jeff. I really do. Oh my goodness, I hope you're wrong.
Well, that's awesome. We appreciate you coming on. I'll tell you openly that Glenn and I, of course, chose the Ravens. Now, I say, of course, I think Glenn has gone against the Ravens just a time or two more than myself, which we've only been wrong at this point, 7 times now since we started.
So I'll say this on Browns games this year. I got last week wrong, so I would be 8-4 on picking them.
All right. Well,
it's not that bad.
Yeah. No, it's not that bad.
It's better than our record, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I did have the Ravens winning in week 1, as you guys remember.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah, that's yeah, exactly. I can't wait for this game. We appreciate you coming on. And then why don't you let those that are viewing the show and listening to the show know where they can find what you're working on.
Yeah, sure. You can find me at Browns Wire. We got a lot of stuff going on there. I'm on a ton of podcasts this week, specifically that are Browns related. So you will find a bunch of links to that on there. If you want to listen to me rip a little bit on a couple of Browns and make fun of a transaction that they made this week, that's always good. Browns Wire at usatoday.com. There's an app, the Sports Wire app. Check that out. If you want to watch a team that has completely imploded, I also cover the Detroit Lions. This is one of the very few times in my life where the Browns are ahead of the Lions justifiably. They're not in a good spot right now. They're not going to win another game this year. They have a coach and a GM fired, so that's fun to watch too. And you will probably hear me talk nice things about certain Ravens people that might want to be poached by the Lions organization. Steal from good teams. That would be my motto for that. I also write the 10 cents in the weekly predictions at Real GM. Please check that out. The 10 cents. If you are of a certain age, you will really appreciate the 10th cent that I wrote last Monday about that. And that comes out every Monday. It's league wide. I also cover the NFL draft there. I will have a mock draft up at some point. Hopefully neither of our teams are in need of really being seriously into mock drafts for a little bit of time, but some people like that. And all year
already doing mock drafts. Wow. Man, not wasting any time, getting right back into it.
I haven't done one for the Browns yet. So the way I do it, they're going to be picking in the 20s. So you take just like 22 guys that could be available at number 22, that type of thing. I don't do mock drafts yet. I'm not to that point yet. Plus, college football is wacky this year. I haven't had a chance to watch it. I was super excited to watch Ohio State and Michigan this weekend. It's canceled. I'm an Ohio Bobcat. I'm wearing the hat right now. Our games have been canceled 2 weeks in a row. That's very unfortunate. But go Cats.
There you go.
Well, thanks again, man. We appreciate the time and enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the Monday night game.
It's going to be great, guys. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.